Thanks for listening in to Miss Pursuit this week. Lesley Leslie from Utah is joining us for a conversation about her change from East Coast hunting in Georgia all the way over to Utah and how that has changed her relationship with her husband, how it has strengthened it, but also how empowering it has been to join a great group of ladies in the Miss Pursuit world. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Miss Pursuit podcast. Today, we have Lesley Leslie on here with us, and she hails out of Utah, right, Lesley?
I do. I'm originally Georgia born and raised, but been in Utah for 6 years.
I was about to say, there's a good Southern accent coming from you from living in Utah. There is no way it began there.
You are not wrong.
What part of Georgia were you from?
So Thomasville, right down at the Florida-Georgia border.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of friends from that area just because I lived in Birmingham for years and I'm an Auburn fan. So in between Moultrie and, where was it that we went? Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
Macon, Georgia was a place that we spent a lot of time in my college years. And it was because there is a hockey team, or there was a hockey team down there. And the name of the hockey team, the Macon Whoopies.
Ain't that a hoot?
I cannot tell you how many Macon Whoopie games I went to and bought t-shirts, and they really played up that name. It was awesome.
Yeah. You didn't feel quite so weird saying it.
I know it. I'm going to bring you back to your Southern roots over here. But I've spent a lot of time in Georgia, and my family is actually right on the other side of the Georgia-Alabama border, right there on I-20. So it's we've spent plenty of time kind of hanging over both sides of that border from Alabama to Georgia. Yep.
I don't need the humidity. I can tell you that.
I bet you don't. It's pretty nice right now. We've got some rain coming in today, but the past week has been beautiful, and that's abnormal for this time of year in the South.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get to talk to you today, and I kind of want to just get started, and you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the outdoors and what kind of brought you into it.
It's a weird story. So I was an athlete growing up. I was too busy on a softball field or cheering or always swimming in the mud, in the dirt, whatever I could do. So I had never really been exposed to hunting or guns at all. And I got married to my sweet husband. We met at Middle Georgia College, this tiny little 2-year school in Cochran, Georgia. My dear sweet husband has hunted. He harvested his first deer. He was 6 years old with a shotgun.
Whoa.
On the ground. I know. After school, one of his older brothers took him hunting after he did his homework. It was so cute.
Oh.
I know. So he just, I'm going to kid you not, for 10 years of our marriage, when we first got married, he begged, babe, come out with me. You'll like it. Come on. And I was always telling him, you go and you don't come home with anything. I've got more to do. I've got stuff that really needs to be done, not go sit somewhere in a field or in a tree with nothing to come back to. And he got so tickled. Well, I was 32. This was 2009. And I was diagnosed with malignant melanoma. It was the weirdest thing. So everything that I had, really enjoyed, which was sitting in the pool and playing outside. And I mean, pretty much laying on a rock, absorbing as much as I could.
Right.
I had to stop. I had to find something else to love. And this one time, Germ goes, babe, you need to go with me. He says, you've been moping around the house and you don't know what to do with yourself, and just come with me. You'll like it. And then he got me. It was so funny with the dermatologist. He goes, your dermatologist would be so proud because you get long sleeves and gloves and pants and a hat and you're in the shade of the tree. He said, you're safe.
He played that up.
Right? He knew just what to say.
Yeah.
So I sighed and I borrowed some of his camo and a hat. And he had been talking since I told him I would go. I did my hunter's education online, and I asked him a bajillion questions because I was like, what does all this even mean? And he's like, you'll understand. Mm-hmm. So I got all my stuff and he loaned me his crossbow. It was the funniest thing. And he had a double stand. So his, idea the whole time was to have the kids or me finally, if I would ever go with him. So we went out in this little Georgia field in the edge of some trees, and we climb up in this stand, and I'm like, all right. Okay, this is cool. And so we're just sitting and I hear all the birds and the breeze, and the tree sways. Right. And so that's kind of spooky. And so I'm like, are we going to die? And he's like, dude, no, just lean back and close your eyes.
Just enjoy it.
It was so fun. Now, in an aspen tree up here, it's not quite so much fun because they sway with a vengeance.
Yes, they do.
I had a climber stand. Woo! That's a different story. But so my sweet husband gets me out and he takes me, and it's the funniest thing. He says, I hear something, and I just freeze because I'm like, what do you do? What do you hear? Is Bigfoot going to come get us? I'm like, okay, well, do you need to be afraid? Or, I didn't really know how to react. And he's like, of course it's coming from behind us. Don't move. And I'm like, oh, God. I didn't know whether to tremble or turn around and look and just scare whatever it is away. So I just sat there and I tried to turn my eyes as far as I could without moving. And he goes, all right, there's a doe and 2 and 3. And he counted 6 does and a couple little fawns, and out they come. And those little things knew. He had a corn feeder set to go off at 4:00 in the afternoon. It was maybe a couple minutes right before. And they were coming on in to get some corn, because no sooner they walk in, that little thing dispersed. And that scared me to death too, when that thing started slinging corn. It was kind of loud. And they just went to feasting. And so I looked at him. I was like, do you shoot? And he's like, no, you don't know which one of them are still with the babies, and they're kind of small. Mm-hmm. So he started teaching me about what it meant and how to appreciate what was there, and what was an appropriate time to go after something, and what was just sit back and watch and have fun.
Yeah.
It was so cool. So that's how I got in.
I love that, because it's not like he just said, okay, shoot. It was each moment of that first hunt was a lesson that you were taking in. And I know that happens with all new hunters, especially if you're a kid or if you're being mentored by someone. Each moment that you're following somebody, there's a lesson to be learned if you are willing to watch it and absorb it and take it in. And I mean, I do the same thing with my kids. They're the ones that I have now been able to mentor, and it's just a simple, hand motion of, okay, this is when you freeze, or this is when you're quiet. And like you said, you don't turn around, because that's the first thing you want to do when somebody says, here, something's coming, is to turn around and look. But they will spot you. Our opening season was this weekend, and I took my daughter with me, and we were sitting in a double stand up in a tree, and a bunch of doe came through with one fawn, and they were playing. They were kicking it up, bouncing around, jumping around. They're too far for us to take a shot. And so she said, well, can we get one? And I said, no, they're too far, but we can watch them and we can enjoy this moment and we can take it in and we can observe them and see where they move. We can see maybe in the future where we should be set up for the next time we come through. And it's just, that's why they call it hunting and not killing, is because you're coming in, you're observing, you're learning. You don't always harvest. Like you said in the beginning, you said, you come home with nothing. I've got better things to do. But it isn't. It's so much more than just the harvest. And I think that's what kind of pulls us in, is the excitement of what all we see out there.
Absolutely. And every time I come back, I feel less rushed and distracted. You just get to let it all go and just be for a minute. And it's amazing.
It really is. And whether you're with a significant other or a hunting buddy or a kid, to spend that one-on-one time, even if you're just being quiet, you're still spending it with that person. And I think that's the fun part of having a partner out there, whether you're mentoring somebody or you're just hunting with them. It's a lot of fun to go with another person when you're out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my solo hunts. I love going out by myself and taking it all in and just being me. But it has been fun bringing the kids in on it.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Do your kids hunt?
Sometimes they'll go out with me if they don't have to hike real hard.
Right.
And if I don't take them in the morning, they do not want to get up at the time it takes to drive to the bend, to the mountain, and then hike in before the sun comes up. They're not about that. And that's why they don't shoot many competition shooting matches, because they don't want to get up and go build the stages. And so they're like, Mama, we'll go if it's a pretty easy hike and we'll sit in the afternoon. Yeah. But it's great.
I think that my son is more along those lines versus my daughter, who we were up at 2:30 in the morning this past weekend to get out there and get to the spot, like you said, to drive and then to hike in. And she snoozed a little in the tree stand, I have to be honest. I would have too, but the excitement has me way too riled up to sleep in that stand. But you have now switched from Georgia hunting to Utah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite a bit different.
That is a major change. So gone are the days where you hop on a four-wheeler or you can park your truck right at the edge of the woods and this tiny little walk, and you just climb up in a tree. And now I'm not going to tease you one iota. Back in Georgia, we were part of a hunt club, and I love this place. Everybody in the hunt club brought their campers out, and we had this massive bonfire, and we would all cook dinner and then sleep in our campers. And we had this kind of pin-up board out, and everybody, there were like, a dozen stand areas, and everybody would put a pin on where they're going to be. So we kind of could support each other.
Right.
But somebody also didn't come driving through or walk right through where you were sitting. You knew.
Right.
And there was one stand one morning I was going to, and we called it it was just the big old platform. And it was a big a house with the covered, just a big old platform stand. I carried my blanket and my cup of coffee and my rifle, and I sat there pretty as you please, all bundled up, and had the best morning of my life.
Yeah. There's a nice part to that. Like you were saying, the camaraderie of a hunt club and being a part of people that support and encourage, and everything's organized. There's also the public land side of it here on the East Coast that people are fighting to get out there. I've driven up to many a site on public land and have had to keep going because there's already 6 or 7 cars there. And so you have a little bit of both over here, having to get in there and work it. And where we are right now, if we were to stay overnight, it would be 100% bring your water in, it would be like backcountry hunting because there's nothing there. And it's nice to have that part of it where you're hiking a mile in and it's all uphill and you're having to, watch out for rattlesnakes and things like that. There's that part of it that is so much fun to be able to have both sides. Yes, we have a tree stand. Yes, you have to hike to get there. Yes, you've got to fight for public land. I think that there's just a little bit, depending on where you are, you can get a little bit of everything on the East Coast, but it's definitely not the same as being out west.
For sure. I love it because there's such a challenge and the weather takes so many different twists.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right now, it's 8:00 in the morning. I slept over my windows open. It was amazing. It was like 45 degrees.
Wow.
I know. So you've got to get some thermals and you've got to have some layers and you got to carry it all. But when the sun comes up and you're moving, you got to shed all that and put it in a pack, and you got to carry snacks and your water and all the good stuff. So you've really got to be capable of carrying a good, 10 to 20 pounds pretty easy and hike. So, I mean, it's just, you feel so accomplished, physically, like, you know what? I'm the pack horse today. Let's do this.
Right. And you're packing in that much, but you might be packing out twice that coming out.
On a good day.
That's
the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the trick is, and it's always amazing. So you have to hike the main trails for sure, but you want to, take advantage of your apps like Onyx and things like that.
Right.
And try to find a watering hole or an open meadow or Google Maps and find something where you can kind of fall off trail and just try to get away from anybody else. And that's the trick, is try to go where the animals are, but the people aren't.
Right. And that because y'all are hunting public land out there, aren't you?
Yep. All public.
Yeah. And the availability of public land in the West, depending on where you are, can be a huge amount, or it can just be a small amount of an area. And you guys are sharing it not just with other hunters, but with backpackers and hikers and all of that. So
mountain bikers.
Yeah. So it does add a challenge, like you said, getting away from that and getting off the beaten path and really working hard to figure out where the animals are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's where you just kind of start looking for sign and tracks and, a little scat pile. And it's just super fun. Follow a game trail. And you're like, okay, all right, this is a pretty heavy used trail. Let's figure this out. And it's just always like a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I was about to say it's a puzzle and you better leave some pieces behind you to make sure you can get back out.
There is that.
Yeah. I bet it was
I'm by myself.
Yeah. Right. That, I bet it was a lot of troubleshooting when you guys first got out there.
Oh my Lordy. So the first year, we could barely breathe. It was so hard trying to acclimate from 400 feet above sea level to almost 5,000 feet above sea level. And we started hiking and we just tuckered out so darn fast.
Yeah.
We weren't even barely getting off the main trail. So of course we never really saw anything. And the second year we were a lot better, but we still just didn't have a concept of, how to get far enough off the trail and really to start investigating, the depths of how good grief, enormous. I mean, you can completely get lost out there. There's so much to see, and there's a lot to find. And then probably it was that third year that I got my muley, my big old buck, and good Lord, he was a hoss. And we just kind of picked up tips, and I had a friend that was like, over here, you're close where you are, but try the other side of the road.
Yeah.
And it was just fun finally finding some, folks that were willing to give advice. And I'm going to tell you, it's real funny. People are super hush hush. They ain't going to tell you nothing.
No.
Which is fine. I understand, because it is hard to find anywhere to hunt, but a general tip that covers miles is helpful. Nobody's asking for your honey hole.
Yeah. You don't have to give me a pinpoint, just a general direction.
That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I hooked up with a friend, my bestie, Julie. She's a hunter, and her husband hunts too. So Jeremy and I hang out with them, and we go out a lot. And so they've been in the area for a couple decades. So they took us and showed us quite a bit of, what to look for. And, they like this kind of brush, and elk like this kind of terrain. So then we can really get out and find our own spots too. So it's a lot of fun making friends and relationships out here.
I think it's neat that you said, and I say neat, it's not neat. It's, people expect. So if I come to the West, I came over and hiked a mountain with my brother a couple of years ago in the northern part of New Mexico, kind of on the New Mexico-Colorado border. And he had been over for, I would say it had been 3 years. He was stationed in Texas at Fort Bliss for a little bit. And so he had been over there kind of acclimating for 3 years, like you said. And then I come over from Tennessee. I'm a flatlander. And it would be a couple of feet and I would have to take a breath. And we were snowshoeing, miles of snowshoeing. And so you're adding that onto it, but it's still just being able to take a breath. Like he said, it took years for him to acclimate into it. And it's people expect to just go over, well, I've been working out. I've been in the gym. I've been, cardio this, cardio that. There's nothing that is going to prepare you for the sea level change, for the altitude.
Oxygen deprivation.
Other than that, which not everybody has access to.
Yeah, for sure. And then I got another hit last summer. It was the last week of August, first week of September. I did a backpacking trip to do opening weekend of archery elk in Colorado. It was up above Leadville, which was already 10,000 feet above sea level. But then we hiked up just under 13,000. And I'm going to tell you, it was an amazing experience. And my pack weighed 61 pounds because I carried so much stuff for 5 days.
Right.
I carried 21 pounds of a ground blind for one of our friends that needed help carrying it.
Oh my goodness.
And so I bent over once we got up there to tie my shoe, and I had to hold a tree when I stood back up. The world spun for a second. That first couple hours, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm just going to move slow and keep breathing.
Yeah. You just keep telling yourself, take a breath in, take a breath in, take a breath in. That's a lot to take on, though. 60 plus pounds of a pack at 13,000 feet. God. That's hard for anybody. I mean, that's a big accomplishment right there.
I was so proud. I have a picture of it. It literally looked like I packed a person on my back and I'm just hiking up. I was smiling, but dang, I felt it.
That smile was that was the grin and bear it smile.
We do that though.
Yeah.
And I think that's the amazing thing about hunting is it's not easy. It is not a cakewalk. You have to work if you want to earn a harvest. You've got to put some sweat, put a lot of practice, physically prepare yourself. There's so much that goes into it. You don't just walk up haphazardly and be like, well, I'm just going to take some trophy home today.
Yeah. No, you can't. You got to earn it. There's a lot that goes into the behind the scenes, and you do a lot to stay fit. You do a lot to work hard and to prepare yourself for that. And I can only imagine the difference it would make not being physically prepared for it.
I couldn't imagine. I struggle enough being fit.
Yeah. I think that people underestimate hunters, especially when you're backpack hunting, when you're going out with everything on your back and you're bringing it all back in. I think that they underestimate. And I think that box that non-hunters put us in is the idea of the plush, hugely overweight, sitting back with a gun, just popping off animals. And that's not
absolutely.
It's the furthest from what a real hunter can be. And I think that when you put in together the ethics of it and you put together the fitness part of it, you really have to open your eyes as a non-hunter to see all of the different kinds of hunting and see how much investment, not just financially, but physically, is put into our community.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a massive statistic of people who are unprepared for like dragging a deer. The amount of heart attacks from, things that they go out, bless their sweet hearts. And they're like, it's pretty easy. It's not a big deal. No. And they have a heart attack trying to drag a deer. It's like, oh dear.
Yeah. And for those who are listening, Leslye is an RN. She's a nurse. And so you can see that physical side of it. You can see the implications and the impact that being unprepared can have on somebody. And I mean, I can be working out all year long and that first deer of the season still surprises me.
Absolutely. I'm an occupational therapist. Yeah. So I'm a therapist and a trauma rehab specialist. So I get to see some of the scariest things. People, accidentally shot themselves or poked an arrow in themselves. And so it's just, I love my job because some of my very first conversations are proper gun handling skills.
Yeah.
And, let's not walk through the woods with an arrow in your hand. Let's keep it in your quiver until we get to a scenario. So I find that there are moments where I do in my rehab clinic, I do gun handling skills and training, and I've got a cert trainer pistol and an AccuBow. I have the best job in the planet.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. But it's something to talk about. It's something to have that conversation. We've just a couple of years ago, a gentleman that I grew up knowing as a hunter, that I knew that their family hunted. His kids hunted with him, and he fell out of a tree stand and broke his back. And he was very lucky that he had his phone nearby, that he was able to get help when they got it. He was rushed here to Vanderbilt and taken care of, but it was a long road to recovery. And if he had been wearing a harness, it would have alleviated a lot of what he went through and what his family went through. And he's lucky to be alive still today. So it's smart hunting. It's not wimpy hunting. It is smart hunting to be prepared. And that's, I never want to put my family in any position that I can keep from happening by just small things, gun handling safety, arrow handling safety, anything like that. It is smart hunting.
Yep, that's the way to go. And I've kind of challenged myself with this so much, and I'm really passionate about that. I am a Utah DWR hunter's education instructor now.
Awesome. We need more women in there.
Right?
Yep, we do. We need more women in that position. And I'm so glad that you are. My daughter went through hunter safety last year, and she was the only girl in the class. I was the only girl in the class when I went through it years ago.
Same.
But there was a female instructor in my daughter's class. And
Wow.
it created, and I went up to her afterwards and I said, thank you so much for doing this, for being a volunteer, because that's what she was, a volunteer. She didn't get paid to do it.
Exactly.
She volunteered her time to be there, and she said, I do it for her. I do it for the girls in this class, because it creates a situation where if they have a question, their hands automatically go up. It's not a sit back and just be observant. It's being, all of a sudden they feel like they can be a part of that class. They can get their questions answered, and there's not a hesitation. And I think that it makes a huge difference.
Without a doubt.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
COVID
kind of messed up, but
I know it. All of our classes have been online recently, and especially for, I don't know, there's a part of me that understands that online is making it a whole lot easier for people, but there is nothing that replaces an in-classroom conversation.
Absolutely. Every time. Yeah, that's where you're going to learn the most and retain. And yeah, the online, it's a great option, but it will not just drive home the same.
No, it doesn't. And I think that there are questions that other people ask that you wouldn't necessarily think about, and getting hands-on information and hands-on practice and looking at things and hearing from people, not just a computer. Tennessee has just changed to where you can take an online, well, you don't even have to have a class anymore to carry. And it doesn't, I have a thing about it. There are people that can go through an online class to conceal carry and still hold a gun wrong. And
for sure. They don't do the range day or anything.
No, not for handgun. And there's still a range day for hunter safety, except COVID kind of messed with that. But for handgun safety and for that, I believe 100% that there should be an in-class requirement.
Absolutely.
I think that somebody needs to say, okay, pick that gun up and show me how you will handle that. And it can be bad habits can immediately be stopped right there with that one question, with that one exercise. Okay, this would be a better way of doing that. This will be a safer way of doing that. And having hands-on people that can visually see, hey, that's an unsafe way of doing that.
And just imagine how many traumatic and devastating kind of accidents could be prevented just with that.
Yes, 100%. But yeah, I am excited that you just said that you have taken that on. I think that that's a great way for our community to give back, for the hunting community to be involved with that next generation of hunters. And that's just one easy step to do it. It's not hard for any reason. It keeps you up to date on things. It keeps you fresh on all of the rules and regulations. And at the same time, you're mentoring people to come on up and join the ranks.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful way to volunteer and just be a part of what you love so much.
It's very true. I think that, in school, it has always been learn, do, teach. right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a great application to hunting. Learn from somebody or just learn and then do it and then teach. And each aspect of that circle, each part of that, you are learning something new. You are learning a new way of hunting, you're adding to your arsenal of things that you can use, because as I teach people, it creates a better hunter in me.
For sure. And you learn something every time.
Yes. Every single time.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty in it is even, I don't care how long you've been hunting or shooting or doing anything, you're still kind of evolving. You're always going to find something that you could do better or explain, more reasonably. So it's a learning opportunity for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Well, I want to hear, so from Georgia to Utah, what would you say has been one of your favorite hunts?
Ooh.
I know.
Oh my gosh. It would have to be, oh my gosh. Probably it'd have to be that Colorado hunting up. It took about 3 miles and almost a 3,000 foot climb in 3 miles. I know, it was so steep. But so we set up camp. This was the first time I had done an extended camping trip. So we had just gotten our tent and sleeping bags and our insulated pads.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set all this up. And so I was so excited. So we were sleeping that night before, and the very next morning was opening day of archery for these elk. And let me tell you, I must have slept like the dead, because when we woke up and we were making our little coffee over the cute little jet boil thing, my husband says, "Did you not hear the stampede last night?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Babe, the herd ran right by our tent down to the water."
Nuh-uh.
He was like, "Yes." He said they were talking and the hooves, literally the ground shook.
And you slept right through it.
I did. I felt so dumb. He said, I rolled over and I asked you, I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And he goes, "And you're just a pew." So I was kind of disappointed, because he said it was just magnificent, a cool experience. And I'm like, well, I was there at least.
Yeah, you can claim you were there.
It was so cool. But then, kid you not, we slept in our little merino wool outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just going to toss on our camo, but we were sitting there having our first cup of coffee just to wake up before we were going to hike out, weren't even dressed. And we looked up at the edge of the kind of tree line, and we started seeing just bodies crossing. They were moving.
Wow.
I mean, it was barely, so you could just see shadow, but we saw 13 go by, and it was just like, oh my God, they're real and they're here and this is amazing. And I just literally, it was one of those moments where you're like, this is life. This is what, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Fascinating. Yeah. And I didn't harvest one, but we had several close encounters that were just, it kept me going. I was like, if I can have that feeling, whether I got something or not, you felt so alive and so just invigorated every time, you got an opportunity or a glance at something, or you could see, I had, oh my goodness, 4 cows started walking straight towards me. And I kid you not, I had my arrow knocked, and that blind that I carried in, I was sitting in it, and I was ready to draw back. And that lead cow, man, are they brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
She happened at like 15 yards. She happened to kind of stop, and she looked just as the sun peeked in through the window of the blind, and like literally spotlighted my face. My husband turned because when he saw that cow stop, he glanced towards me and he went, "Girl, your face was a beacon of light." And if ever there could have been an expression on an elk's face, she gave me one of those, "And what do you think you are?" looks, and kind of chuffed at me, and they turned and ran away. But I was like, I honest to gosh felt like I could have reached out with my arrow and touched her if I leaned forward a little bit.
Wow.
It was just unreal. And she stopped so fast. The one behind her kind of bumped into her butt. It was hilarious. So we had a giggle about it, but it was like, oh my God, wow. Who had one of them turned? They were chunky. They were great.
They would have been, that would have been a good fun story to tell. That
it would have.
It still is. And that's kind of what you're getting at, that you can't experience that unless you go. And,
for sure.
And that's that first step, is just getting out there. And it reminds me of, having a deer blow at me, having a doe. It frustrates the heck out of me if that happens, because it means I've gotten caught, right? And the goal is not to get caught. But it's also just one of those, you tattletale.
I know. Gosh, they're so nosy. I'm like, mind your own business.
Right? And they are. That's what they're doing. They're taking care of themselves and the other animals around them. But it is just one of those, and I'll hear them blow and not even know that they're there. And it just shows how brilliant they are, and how that nose of theirs can keep them safe. And we had Saturday a doe down in the valley that was looking up. And she, like I said, they were playing hard, kicking up their feet, having a good time. And then they kind of settled and were grazing, but then a doe just stopped and looked straight up. And I've taught my daughter, if a deer looks at you, you better not move. You better not blink. You better not breathe. You have a staring contest right back and not move, because if you don't move, you might be okay. And she was doing that head wobble, like looking, and it was, my daughter said, I didn't move. I said, I know you didn't move. She just was smarter than we were today. And that's kind of how it is. It's who's going to be smarter, who's going to get upwind, who is going to win. And it, half the time, more than half the time, they do. And it's just the way it is. But you learn so much from those opportunities.
For sure. And it's a testament to, we fidget and we may think we're being so still, but man, we fidget and make a lot of noise. And we're searching so hard for any little sound or sign of movement, but so are they. And they have much better honed in skills than we do. It's
true. It's very true. We kept hearing black walnuts fall this weekend, and they are loud when they come through the trees. And it sounds like something is just hurtling at you, just barreling through the trees, and it's just a walnut. And so every time one would fall, we'd go, oh, what was that? Or anytime the squirrels would move, what was that? But honestly, when a deer comes through, they're as quiet as can be.
Ain't that the truth? A squirrel sounds like a moose.
Yes.
And the deer and the elk are whispers.
Yes.
I can't even figure it out how something that large is so quiet. They'll surprise you every time.
It's true.
It's like they just poof out of thin air.
Yeah, it's very true. Or you just see a shadow move in between the trees, and it's as if they weren't really there. They're not really... it's just, like you said, a whisper. And I think that's the coolest part, is being a part of their world for the small moments of time that we can be. It's an honor truly a complete honor to be a part of it.
Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so you're a part of the Miss Pursuit team. You were a part of the contributing ladies. And man, I love what Carly has done and how she has put this team together. Tell us a little bit about your part in this.
So I just get the absolute pleasure of kind of writing and sharing and exploring topics with other women and maybe young ladies coming up. It is just absolutely exciting to be kind of a part of the contributing team, really just promoting women to be able to shoot and hunt and get outside and fish, get outside of your box and learn something that historically was, a man's world. But let me tell you, I mean, women in the industry now, we're taking the world by storm.
Yeah.
We're great shots. We're patient. We're hardworking. We're willing to learn. And it's so exciting. I would say probably the biggest thing, the relationship with my husband since I started hunting. We have so much to talk about, whether it's gear or hunting plans or dreams of, oh my gosh, babe, what if we went to Alaska and did a moose hunt?
Yeah.
I think it's just added such a spice and fun and excitement to our relationship. And it's always fun to find other women and people who share or have, questions or that dream and aspiration as well. So being able to put that out into the world of, hey, we are promoting this and you can do it too. And ask any of us, we're all willing to step up and just share and mentor and help. And I think it's just the greatest thing in the planet.
I think so too. I think that just hearing how other women are doing it in different places of the world creates this opportunity to get in there and hear what works, what doesn't work, what are some shortcuts so that you bypass the troubleshooting and work into, like, I don't want somebody to struggle with things they don't have to struggle with. It doesn't mean you're not going to struggle. There's always going to be something you have to push yourself through, but the small things that you don't have to, you can hear about these things. You can learn about these things through articles and podcasts and the whole community. You can bypass some of those things. And I don't know, as a new hunter coming into it, when you read, okay, what do I need? What supplies do I need? What classes do I need? What license do I need? All of these things, it can be so overwhelming. So having a place to go to kind of hone in on, what do you really need? What do you not need? That's the big one. What do you not need? Everybody's going to tell you what you do need, but it's what I don't need that I need to hear. What do I not need to spend my money on? What can I save my money for that really is important? What outfitters, what guides, if you are going in that direction, are respectful and great with working with women, and who isn't? Like, those are important things for me to know. And as a new hunter, it's really important to be able to bypass some of those things that would not work well.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And just being able to offer that advice to each other is it's incredible.
And not to mention the recipes that we've all been able to get off of Miss Pursuit has been excellent.
Delish.
Yeah. If you don't know how to cook what you're hunting, then you're not going to want to keep hunting it. That's just the plain truth to it. If it doesn't taste good, then I'm not going to want to go back and hunt it. It's we eat what we hunt and we share what we hunt. And if I don't know how to cook it well, if it's not going to taste good, then my family's not going to be I think that's a waste, right? I'm not going to take a life of an animal that we're not going to utilize in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. That's our rule too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a ground standard here. And so far we haven't really had anything that we don't like. I'm supposed to find out soon if we get our sandhill crane tags. And I don't know, have you ever tried sandhill crane?
No.
It's a huge bird, huge, but it's red meat. So they call it the ribeye of the sky. And I've had it once. And if we both draw tags, we would have 4 tags this year that we could hunt with. And it would be great to bring that home. But we're waiting to see. It's that luck of the draw.
I know that's a whole new thing to us for moving to Utah.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. That's going from Georgia, where I think Georgia it's not exactly like Tennessee, because we can get 3 doe in a day here in Tennessee the whole hunting season. And so I don't know, Georgia, each state's different, but to get a hunting like, do what?
10 deer. Just with your big game permit, you can get 8 does and 2 bucks.
Yeah.
No draw, nothing.
Yeah.
And that qualifies you for turkey as well.
Right. And so to change that into Utah, where you actually have to draw for one, is a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. And you either accumulate points or there's some over-the-counter tags, but they're supremely saturated. It's heavily hunted.
Right.
Like the over-the-counter archery elk that we do every year. It's a $50 tag over the counter, but
heavily pressured.
Oh, yeah. 10% success rate.
Right.
Historically, that's why there's no limit. They'll sell a bajillion because they know that so few are actually going to harvest.
It's true. It's very true. It's I don't know. There's some excitement to that if you can be part of that small percentage of people harvesting, but it's like you said, that's a small window. For that to be so heavily pressured. Man, that had to have been quite the difference of, well, we just can't go out and hunt all season.
I know.
Yeah. Do you ever get back over here? Do you have family still over on the East Coast that you can come back and hunt if you wanted to?
I'm sure our entire family still is in Georgia. And, that would be so much fun. Our fun hunt camp folks, our family at hunt camp also said, y'all come back, you spend the weekend with us and come hunt again. I think it would just be, I don't know, there's something about flights. It's so daggum expensive for a family of 4 to go anywhere and then rent a car and all that stuff. And we just haven't.
Well, and it's like it's budgeting. I mean, that's what we do as families. You budget and you prioritize. And I would rather put it into where you can hang out and be a family and put forth the finances where it needs to be put. And I bet your family misses you.
I know. Yeah, so Jeremy comes home from Dubai, supposed to be a couple of days right before Thanksgiving. And we don't know yet if he's going to make it to Salt Lake or if we're going to meet him in Atlanta, but we're going to go spend the week of Thanksgiving in Georgia and stay with all the family. And finally, it's going to be our first holiday in 6 years with everybody.
That'll be good. There's just something about the encouragement and the support of family that you really need every now and then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then to be able to reunite. We didn't talk about that here at the beginning, but Leslie's husband is in Dubai right now for a little while. And it's been a long time, if ever, that you guys have been separated for that amount of time.
Over 20 years, yeah.
it's a tough go of it, but you're staying busy and Miss Pursuit's keeping you busy and just being able to get out and do the things that you've set up for yourself. It's a good plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what have you got going on with his absence? Do you have any hunts coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Oh, I do. So duck season opens this weekend. So I'm getting myself prepared for duck season. And this coming weekend, I'm going out, trying to find some elk, taking my bow for a romantic walk.
Off into the sunset.
Yeah. And let's see, the 17th of this month, rifle deer starts. So I'm going to see if I can get my lovely little Romeo, my mule deer that is named Romeo, hanging on the wall beside me. I'm going to see if I can get him a matching partner.
Awesome. That'll be fun. I hope the best. I'll be keeping up, trying to watch and see what comes of it.
Absolutely. I'm hoping so. I want to make Jerem proud.
Yeah. And bring home some meat. That's I've noticed this year, especially, I bet there are going to be more meat hunters out there than ever before, just with everything that's been going on.
Absolutely. It was devastating to see people truly panicked in the grocery store because they couldn't find anything they needed. And I was so thankful. We harvested 2 cow elk this year, and we're still pretty stocked up on deer, the mule deer.
Yeah.
And I was just so thankful that we had that at home. We didn't have to be, scared and running from store to store trying to find something to feed your family with.
Yep. I agree. We've definitely handed out a couple of packages of meat here and there to neighbors and people who have needed it. And I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that.
Very much so.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to keep up with you this season and to see how these next couple of weeks are going to go for you. Keep me posted. And and we are grateful for this conversation. I'm grateful for it. I love hearing from other women and hearing their stories and hearing how they've found a passion for the same thing that I do. And I think that that's kind of what this community is all about, is sharing that and encouraging each other to keep going.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Leslye, very much.
You are so welcome. It's nice to talk to you.
Yes, ma'am.